There are two types of sacrifices, correct ones and mine. That is a quote from the greatest attacking chess player of all time, Mikhail Tal. And today, I played a sacrifice like the latter, mine. Welcome to my game recap of my round 4 in the Reykjavik Open, the biggest chess tournament in the world right now. I had the black pieces against a local Iceland player named Markus Ori Johansen. My opponent played e4, I started with e5 myself, and we go into an Italian, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, and I go bishop c5. So far so good. d3 is played, it's going to be largely a closed Italian, knight f6, and c3. If you have followed the Twitch journey, we have looked extensively at a chess course by Anish Giri in which he goes 12 hours deep into this opening, so I was feeling quite confident. I go d6, my opponent goes castles, and now I go with a6. The idea is that if you try to play bishop g5 and pin my knight, I'm gonna actually sneakily go with h6, bishop back, and then g5. And here I can set up some pretty nice tactical stuff. So I wanted to keep that option open as long as possible. So the possibility of my opponent going bishop g5 is only possible before I go castles. If I want to go castles, I have to go h6 first. So a4 was played, and now I go bishop a7, rook e1, and now I go h6, meaning I'm ready to castle. My opponent is not falling for bishop g5. And we go into a pretty closed game. So knight bd2, it's going to be very positional. My opponent is transferring the knight to g3 to be able to hop on these nice squares on f5. I go castles, h3, and now knight e7. I am also transferring my knight. My opponent finishes the transfer, and we both finish the transfer. A lot of transfers going on the chessboard. Here I have to think of a concrete plan. I remember in the Anish Giri course I just mentioned that there is a tactic of b5. And if white takes, now I can take, and the bishop can't take this pawn because I have the discovery check, bishop takes f2, and I win the exchange, plus a pawn. That would have been good. I saw it during the game, but then bishop b3, and it's like I helped the white pieces rejuvenate their bishop into like a nicer thing. So instead, I opted for another plan, and this took some time off my clock. I went with c6, and the idea is to go d5 and establish a strong center. The bishop goes back, just like I did early on in the game, and at this point I realized that this position is almost completely symmetrical. It's symmetrical fully, except for this and this and this. Am I correct? Bishop e6. By the way, that's why a lot of GMs outright have an issue with the Italian, because it's too symmetrical, which means it's too drawish. So too many draws come out of this. But this gets really tactical really fast, so I don't know what they're on about for this one. Bishop e6. Yeah, Anish in his course says to not double these pawns. It's usually not that good, and I agree, but I played it anyways. And if when white played it, which is what he played, I was kind of happy to see this, because now this is better for me. You see, now I can double your pawns. If you take here first, I have the intermediate move, bishop takes f2, check. King takes, and now I'm up a pawn. So that's not possible. So you have to respond to this take on e3. And okay, if you take with the rook, then my dreams come true with this knight f4, and the knight will be absolutely beautiful, and I won't even do anything about this right here. If you take with the pawn, which happened in the game, I actually refuse this bishop trade, and I just establish my center, d5, and you're left with doubled pawns. I'm threatening this pawn to double these pawns, isolate them on e4 and e3, so the trade happens, and suddenly I have a ton of space in the center. My opponent has more central pawns, but less space, and I think this is a big win for the black pieces from a closed Italian, and the engine agrees, which I was pleased with. So d4 is played. Super anti-positional. I did not like this move for white. I believe trying for e4 is a bit better, because on d4 you give me e4, and now this push not only attacks a knight, so it's a tempo gaining move, but also this pawn is looking pretty bad, bro. So the knight moves, knight e5, and here you can see my time. After e4, I spent 10 minutes on such a simple move, right? After the knight moves, the reason why I spent so much time is because after knight e5, which I was seeking, I was expecting that, knight d2, and the knight is completely contained, completely passive, right? So knight e5, was thinking about this really interesting combination, which is queen c7. threatening this knight a second time and basically forcing this knight to take on g6. You cannot defend this knight once more. And this was forced since e4, so I was calculating that there. And after knight takes, I have two options. Either I take back this knight and I attack this knight very beautifully. The knight can't be defended by a piece unless it's a king move. This wouldn't happen, it's just bad. So the knight would move back and then I would play g5, preventing this knight from going to f4. This was all planned and mapped out. Or there's the second course of life. And this is where we have the ambitious player, me, who goes for queen takes g3. And this is the dubious sacrifice I was talking about. Now, reckon during the game, I was fully aware and confident that this was completely winning for black. Here, I'm sacrificing an exchange on f8. So we both just traded knights, and now knight takes f8 happens. I gain this pawn on h3 and threaten to checkmate. My opponent can defend several ways. Several ways are completely losing in this position. If you go rook e2, for example, I go knight g4, and I'm threatening checkmate in 2, and there's not a move that you can do that doesn't prevent checkmate. Rook c2, queen check, king here, queen check, king up, check, king down, check, and now when the king escapes, he's going to c1. Queen takes e3 is checkmate. Insane. And then this is what I was expecting. Queen c2 to defend. If that, I have knight g4, threatening this. And your rook can't move to make space for this king because it's completely over again. Like check, check, king up, check. Your king has to defend the queen. And then I have just a forced mate and winning the queen completely over. So now the best move, very hard to find, is king f1. And this is a very interesting game. This didn't happen. Now, don't get me wrong. I calculated absolutely everything before sacrificing against a lower rated player. I know the risks that are involved with this, and I mitigated the risks. I calculated almost everything. But for some reason, I calculated queen d2 and it was completely winning for black, but it's just not the case. Here, the engine gives a draw, and I later figured out in the game that this sacrifice is not as good as it seemed. And this is where it's extremely dubious to sacrifice this way. But a draw down the exchange is actually not that bad. If my opponent missteps, then it can be almost completely winning in one go. So I play the knight g4 move. I'm threatening check, check, takes, our usual. This gives the d5 pawn. So my opponent takes on d5, one of the only two moves that draw here. There's also knight d7, escaping from that zone. Here, the only drawing move for me is rook d8. I was not looking at that. I was more looking at knight h2, or even check here. I have to play rook d8, wow. I was looking at check, check, king here, and then check, and then the king moves, and then I take back this knight, but I guess this is not good. Rook e2, completely losing. Well, I wouldn't have executed on it if it was not completely fully checked. But anyways, my opponent took on d5, long story short, long story long. Bishop takes d5. I'm currently down the exchange completely. I won a pawn on h3, so I'm just down the exchange. I take the knight, so this is where it's a sacrifice, but it's super long term. The compensation that I want here is the compromised safety of this king. And as the famous saying goes, when you're attacking in chess, invite everyone to the party. This is a famous expression by grandmaster Yasser Seirawan. Bishop takes e4 here. Now I'm down a pawn in the exchange, so I have to play perfect almost. I play f5. I want to bring a pawn to f3, and like this I can just like throw some ammo at that g2 pawn. Bishop f3. Bishop d5 was the only drawing move. This is the things that I was talking about. If bishop d5, king here, you gain the tempo on this. Now bishop f3 is a bit better. For some reason. I don't know, it gives the same thing as in the game almost. So bishop f3 was played, then I go with queen h2 check. The idea is that I'm forcing the king on the same file as my rook here. There's an x-ray present, so that now when I play the move f4, the only floating move in this position, I'm actually doing very well because there's not many things you can do. First of all, if you trade here, your queen is lost, so this needs to be sorted. If bishop takes now, this is actually a mistake. Even though white wants to trade off pieces, when you're getting attacked and you're up material, trade everything off the board, and what's left is your winning position. But here it doesn't work. To the discovery check, f takes e3. So clutch. And even if you block, I can still take this bishop because of the pin of this pawn. Insane. Insanity. So f4, I'm threatening to take this. I'm threatening to take this. The only way out of this is to play e4 yourself and close the file. So e4 was played. And now I have to find the only move once again. Like, it's only move, only move, only move, only move. I don't know what the game review says about this game. It's really, it's a wild game. Like, honestly, very wild. I mean, the only attacking move, it's pretty obvious. I'm sure you found it at home. It's knight e3 check. And the idea is that if you take, you can't really sack back the material because the a1 rook hangs on the bottom rank. So this can't happen. And if the king moves up, well, then I have bishop takes g2, and if you take back, it's checkmate. And if you don't take back, I'm threatening discoveries, and your king is in a mating net. So this forces king e2, and this is a huge element if you're attacking in chess. Play moves that force moves out of your opponent. It's such a good sign when you're attacking. Here I still play bishop takes g2. There's two choices that white has, either king d3, which I saw during the game, flexing this little pin on me, but now I have queen g3. Insane. If you take my bishop, I have knight f1 check winning the queen. So I think I'm winning the bishop on the next turn, and it's pretty even in material after that, but this pawn is an absolute monster. White basically has to sacrifice back the material. Oh, wait. So on takes, there's queen takes. This I didn't see. So I have to take this bishop, the rook's hanging, rook e1, and now rook e8, and this is draw. It's just like, what? So unsound. As far as sacrifices go, this is insane. But anyways, king d3 wasn't played, bishop takes g2 was played, and now I take back with my knight. I have a winning move here that I missed. And I have 35 minutes on the clock. It's hard to find it when you're in the middle of a trade, right? The super normal move is to take with either queen or knight, and let's be honest, this is the super normal move. And after this, queen g3, black is a bit better, and this is the normal move. So I played already a weird move, knight takes g2, threatening the rook and discoveries, but there's a winning move here. See if you can find it. Pause the video to solve. 3, 2, 1. The winning move is knight c4. Threatening this queen and keeping the threat on this bishop. The idea is that we want to play f3, but then you can take my knight. So I go knight c4 first, attacking the queen, queen c2, and now f3 check. And basically, my pawn becomes an absolute monster. g1 queen here. And I'm threatening your queen, discovered attack, while promoting to a second queen. The king's on c4, what a weird position. Weird, wild, weird. So I took with the knight. It's not the first time, and it's not the last time that I miss a tactic. This is where I'm absolutely not Mikhail Tal right now. The title and the introduction were not for ego. It's just the type of game is only to be described from a Mikhail Tal type of game. If you look at his games, it's so incomprehensible and so hard to evaluate the positions he gets himself into that I just found so many similarities. Knight takes g2, I'm threatening to take this with a discovered check by my queen. The king has two options, king here or king here, to hop out of the discovered. If you go rook h1, which is a very interesting line and what I was expecting, I have the silent move queen g3. Silent meaning no checks. And now it's really hard to stop f3 check f2. And by extension of that, knight e3 and f1. And this is a recurring pattern throughout the game, so I'll spare you the details. All to say, king d1 is something I had to calculate as well. f3, queen here, and now I have to find queen f4. I don't know if I would have found this in the game. I think I would have just gone here anyways, which gives equality after king c2. Very, very difficult position. So yeah, I'm just following my plan though after rook f1 was played. I was expecting king d3. Oh no, king d3 gives back. Okay, rook f1 was played. And here, a very interesting position. You see the eval bar on your screen going wild. I have multiple options. So I can go queen g3 with my plan, our plan of going f3, f2, or I have the winning option, which is queen h5, which I missed. Queen h5 check. I looked at it during the game, but after king here, after rook f3, I couldn't find a follow-up, and the follow-up is hard. Oh no, it's just knight h4. Wait, what did I miss here? Oh, king here. Yeah, king here is what I saw, and I was like, I don't have a follow-up. Queen h3 is completely winning, apparently. If the king escapes to c2 or c4, we have knight e3, which forks these two pieces, and I win back the exchange, I gain equality in the game, and what's left over is this really strong passed pawn. And if you go back with your king, I have f3 check, king d1 gives knight e3 check, oh my god, double attack on the rook, discovered check. And if king back, I have check with the f2 pawn. pawn discovered check, crazy. And it's all winning, it's like ±6 for black. The problem is in this position is that after knight h4 check, it's just rook f2 and I have nothing as black. So here I go with f3 check first, and if you take with the rook, now this f file is open and I can go knight h4 check. And you can't block with rook f2 anymore because I just take it and win the queen. So f3 is a move. You cannot take my pawn, it's check on the king. Two options. I was expecting both of these here, but king d3 was played, the more adventurous one. And now I have f2. And my opponent was twice almost took this pawn during the game. I remember very vividly because I was like, this is completely blundering. If rook takes, I have queen g3 check, which picks up the rook. And if queen takes, white has not enough material because I looked at knight f4 check. And on king e3, I have check. Oh no, rook f3. I didn't see rook f3 in the game. Well, this is calculation, so things happen to drop. Okay, and this is winning after queen g4 and knight h4. It's just like insane. Insanity. I'm sure I would have found it anyways. I think queen g3 just seals it. Is it a seal here? I saw this. I definitely saw this. And we have this as well. So that line was completely winning. Anyways, my opponent tucks their king on c2. I have queen g3 here, defending my pawn, and now preparing knight e3 check. Magnus Carlsen quoted Kasparov saying that if you make 9 or 10 threats in a row on your opponent, you win the chess game. I think I'm at like 3 or 4 or 5 right now, so we're getting there. Small advantage for black. I'm still down in exchange. Queen g3 threatening knight e3 check. It's really hard to get out of this. My opponent plays queen e2, giving back the exchange. So the best way to proceed here as white was to play d5 and counterplay like this. Still giving back the exchange, but after king b3, takes, and queen f3, it's just slightly better for black. Very, very insane. Anyways, queen e2 was played. I win back the exchange. Now I play g5. It's a bad move. By the way, here I have a complete win. I miss so many things in this game, it's wild. King b2, I have rook f3, like a silent move that completely wins. I hold my knight just a move longer, and I threaten this completely silent queen f4. The king can't go anywhere and cannot resist to succumb to a discovered check. It's absolutely insane here, and it's completely over. But instead, I took the candy, I took on f1, rook takes, and I go g5. My idea is very simple. g4, queen check, and g3, and then g2, and then I win. It's very, very simple. If you do nothing as white, which it's like a critical moment in the game, let's say you play like b4, g4, anything else, check, queen here, takes, it comes very fast, like g3, g2, it's over. So that's the threat. It's actually like a low-key threat, but it's not the best move here. The best move was rook f3. Again, I don't know why. King c2 and then g5. So rook f3 first for some reason. My opponent plays the only move, and now it's a drawn position. Isn't this crazy? e5 played, counterplaying with white has 2 passed pawns, and I have 3 passed pawns. It's an absolutely wild position. Both our kings are like out in the open. It's the Wild West out here. Now I go rook f3 because I want to play this and this. I think after g4, I really didn't like this counterplay e6, and now check, takes, this, and now on g3, there's e7 for white. I hated this. Oh, plus I was playing a kid, so it's like, oh. Okay, it forces my rook off, and now king f3, and like my pawns are gone. So I couldn't go with this anymore. This plan is kind of messed up now, this g4. So I went with rook f3, and now I'm planning queen f4 check, g4, the works. So basically preventing queen e3 to block. My opponent goes with queen e4, the only drawing move in this position. My opponent played really well throughout the game, let's be honest. Threatening checks all over the place, and I go with the only move that prevents all checks, king f8. d5, 2 passed pawns against 3 passed pawns in full swing. And now I go with g4. The idea is that if you do nothing, I have check, takes, and there's nothing you can do for g3. Even king e3, I have g3, king takes this, rook takes g1 queen. The only drawing move here is king e2. How do you find this as a human being is wild. Actually, it makes sense, because now I can't play queen f4 anymore. Takes, and then you would take on f2. So I have to play king e8 on this. Like absolutely nuts. So my opponent plays queen b4 check. This completely loses. but I want you to find out which is the better of the 3 or 4 different moves. Pause the video to solve, comment down below what would you have played here after queen b4 check. I'll take out the arrows so you can pause the video. Queen b4, the best move is king g7 is winning, king e8 is the best move, and that's what I played. This lets queen d6 is very scary. My king is there alone against a queen and 2 pawns, and 3 checks are threatened on the chessboard. I go with queen f4, the only winning move. Now it's winning again for black. The king moves, I pick up a pawn. g3 here is apparently winning, like giving all the checks in the world. I actually don't know. I'm curious here. King g6, and my king just escapes. Check, king g5. Oh my god, my king escapes. g3 was winning. Yeah, I went with check, and then I took all my time, and I played queen b5. We were past 40 moves, so this was like a 20-minute move. I am threatening a rook, I'm threatening mate in 2, and I'm threatening a pawn on d5. Let me tell you something. If you play nothing, I play check, king here, and checkmate. It's threatening mate in 2. It's like really, really serious. And I'm also threatening queen d3 check, king here, picking up the rook with check, king back up, check back, king b3, and then a queen on f1. Like, I have all the threats in the world. All I have to do is solve this problem. My opponent has a lot of checks, but I calculated through everything. This is the best one by far. I have king f7, e6, and I had king f6 during the game. King f6 is the best. King f6 is the best move. This is what I was going to play during the game. Oh my goodness. Here this gives like 3 checks. It's pretty much all the same, but I think I evade all the checks at once after king e5. And now check, and I saw king d6. Check, and now king e5. Check. Wait. I take this. Yes, I take this and I take this. And now you don't have any more pawns. A law in chess, a physical law in chess. A queen cannot mate a king, just a queen and king. There has to be helpers, or there has to be enemy pieces, like a piece working against me. But you can't checkmate me, and the rook is completely useless. So this would have been winning. I had calculated all of this. This was not played. On check here, I just swing my king to the other side of the board. So I had seen this, and now king b6, and it's completely winning. And it is winning. Oh my god, fire. It's the first time I see this, and it's on video. It's crazy. Live reaction, live reaction. Okay, queen g6 was played in the game, check. King d8, I'm swinging my king to the only place on earth where we have pawns on the 2nd and 3rd rank. King d8, queen g8 check, king c7 only move, otherwise it's a draw. Check, king b8, my king takes refuge, and now d6, I have to find the win. I play check, queen here. Queen b5 apparently is completely winning. I just don't want these pawns to be strong, so I calculated a sure way, and I went straight into it. Trading queens. And now I have g3. These pawns are autonomous, they're independent, they can do whatever they want in life, and, you know, the parent is proud, and the kids are leaving the household. e6, the idea here is actually to win with black, you have to defend. So I just play rook e3, attacking this pawn. Rook d1, I have to be very careful. If you play g2 here, d7 is now a draw. I have to find check, or king a7. Like, it's really easy to slip in this game. So I played king c8. And on check, king d8. Check, and that's why I played rook e3. So there's never an e7 check. It also could have happened in a different move order. d7, king c7, rook d1, king here, e6 threatening this. It's very scary. And now rook e3 is one of the only 2 moves that defends this game. And in this position, my opponent resigned. This was a 5-hour game of chess. I am recording this with a headache. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Round 5 is tomorrow, and then round 6 is tomorrow, another double round in Reykjavik. Wish me luck. I have 2.5 out of 4 now, and the accuracy of this game I found out is 86.8 for me, the black pieces, and my opponent's 80.0. Wow.